Hello and welcome to today's episode of Michelson Alexander Explains. I'm Jack Banister, Michelson Alexander's Head of Content. Today, Associate Sabrine Navarro and I are joined by a very special guest and a new colleague. AFL champion Michael Long has joined Michelson Alexander as a special effect. In this episode, he shared with us how and why he's used sport throughout his life to promote better outcomes for Indigenous Australians.
Michael, welcome.
Brilliant, thank you.
It's good to have you here. Everybody in Australia knows Michael Long, the footballer. I was just wondering, when did you realise that you could use your standing in the game to drive better outcomes for Indigenous Australians?
I think early on as a footballer, as you get drafted, everyone automatically calls you a role model, and that's all part of being a football player. So you try and influence young kids as you were, glary-eyed, in the change room. So that role starts when you're starting in AFL footy, and I suppose as you get older and more mature player, not that you know everything because you're still young anyway, but you focus on your footy. But I reckon 95 was a crucial moment. I think when the racism and Anzac Day, probably one of the biggest games on the calendar, when it all happened, and I think after that, I learned myself as much as, about what happened and the good side of it, and obviously there were a lot of death threats because you were standing up for what you believe in and what words were said, but out of that now it's become something integral and important of the game for everyone. So probably that moment where you had to stand up, and you copped it previously, but that was probably a moment in, I suppose, in time where you took a stand, and that's an integral moment, I think, where it changed for me. Yeah.
And obviously that moment led to the AFL having a racial discrimination policy. When you look back on that 95 Anzac Day game and everything that followed, how do you reflect on all of that now? It's obviously a long way in the past, but so much has changed since then.
At the end of the day, the rule was for everyone, and it a lot of sports adopted the policy. I think, obviously it was only a handful of players back then. To now, it's about the education, and it's that constant education. I think, racism is bigger than sport itself. It's been around for a lot longer than I have, but you just got to keep continually educating our sport and our players. But I think we've been the most proactive when it comes to supporters, clubs, great advocates. This round, like this weekend with the Indigenous round, and we forget to celebrate things. And this is about community, about players, where they come from, and what they do to give back to their community. So I think when you look at the game and what it's done, it's fast-tracked a lot of those issues and been at the forefront. So the AFL have led the way in a lot of ways when you look at our local community, what we do.
So obviously, after the 95 Anzac Day incident, you walked to Canberra in 2004 to speak to John Howard. That sort of shined a light on the importance of communication between government and between Indigenous leaders. And I kind of wonder, when you reflect on it, how important are those relationships with government and that communication with government still in pushing this case against racism forward and advancing Indigenous Australia?
It wasn't until probably after I'd finished football and working with the AFL, their programs, their kids nationally, that it was at a time when ACCT was being abolished, and there was no voice, there was no dialogue at a national level. Not that they drove programs or health or education, it was more an advisory ACCT, and we'd lost that, and it was it's like anything, you don't have a captain at the helm driving Indigenous issues, life expectancy to health, education. Who is going to drive that? So we lost that voice. So, and going to too many funerals, and you look around, you think, what's happening here? How do we fix up the issues that we face in the backyard of our country? We can fly to the moon. We can find cures. I'm sure we can. We need the first question I asked was, where was the love for Aboriginal people? And it wasn't us against them. I look at a lot of things I do is about football, about teamwork and getting the best results. So, and when we wrote the letter to John Howard to seek a meeting, it was really focused around football. And I know what football's done and achieve, and it's not the be all end all, but there's important things we needed to address. That was in our backyard.
It's an important point that you make there, that football is almost a vehicle to drive social change and to speak about these matters.
And as part of the Michelson Alexander family and the team, what are you hoping to achieve? What are you hoping to add to the legacy of advocacy work that you've already created for yourself?
Being in sport and over the time and journey and working with the Long Walk, the AFL and other things I've done, I suppose that hopefully strengthen the work that you guys are doing, and I hopefully add I suppose some experience and life experiences to what we've done and the work we've done, whether it's in different areas. So we could do it in football, why couldn't we do it in the business stream? I suppose there's a lot of challenges for now companies to apply a lot of these things that they're trying to put in place. So there's a big opportunity, and I think for other companies to would benefit out of it and give other opportunities to not just Indigenous but all nationalities.
Michael, let's focus a little bit more about yourself. It's a momentous week for not only for your name but football as well. It's the Long Walk, and leading into Dream Time at the G. It's a great occasion. Are you excited about it?
Yeah, well, it's always a good week, and plus you bump into players you don't see for a while, and I was only talking to Gilbert, McAdam, and Gavin earlier this week, and they look forward to it, and we've tried it this week because we have the Long Walk luncheon to bring other clubs to buy tables and bring other players. So we've tried to change our tack a bit of making it more about the players and stripping it back and what it's really about and their contribution to the game. And it doesn't matter whether Essendon and Richmond were playing on Saturday night, we just wanted to bring them together to say thank you, but also celebrate. It just showcases the culture, the history, the arts. I think this year, as they always do with Pastor Doug Nichols round, they honour a player every year, so it's great, and you just see, you don't realise how much, when you see their history and what they've achieved, you don't really see it until, games like this.
In the work that you guys do with the Long Walk and the Long Foundation, education is a really central part of what you're doing, and that's education not just at a school level but also of the community more broadly. Why do you think education is such an important part of everything that the Long Walk has done? Why is that such a focus?
Well, when we come back from the walk, in my mind is that those kids were going to change the face of what Australia looked like, and that's why we spoke to the kids in the school. You never know, it could be the kids sitting at the back of the room, might change things in the future. You never know, they might find a cure, or if you're talking to kids, then you're obviously trying to talk to them about history and culture and what the walk was about. We thought that the kids and education was the key to what was going to, what we'd like to see in the future. And we only can do so much as an organisation. Our profile's probably bigger than our budget, but we didn't do it for that. As we said when we went to Canberra, where was the love for Aboriginal people? And we saw that extending to the kids, and that's where I see, education is something you have for life, and if we can put not ideas but history and things in the future they might earn, or they might be ahead of an organisation, they open up opportunity because they've had an insight to Indigenous culture.
And obviously the other thing that's happening this weekend is a federal election. When a new government is sworn in after Saturday, what's going to be the most important next step in terms of advancing the relationship with Indigenous Australia?
I don't know. I haven't heard a lot of discussion about it, which I suppose when you're only a population of 2% of Australia, I don't know if our vote really matters, because there wasn't a lot of focus on the Indigenous areas, But in saying that, we've always got to work with governments, we work with them 18 years, the long war, the AFL. I suppose you got to keep continuing that conversation. We try to do that with footy and developing a centre in Darwin for the kids. So you got to keep pushing those boundaries with government, and they, I suppose they invest their money in sport because they know what it does.
Michael, you speak about the Darwin Centre established in 2015, and it's done so much for the Indigenous community there in Darwin by way of engaging local youth in leadership and learning. I was just wondering what the future for the Michael Long Foundation looks like.
Without engagement, you don't have anything. You can have the greatest building, you can have the greatest program, but if you don't have the engagement of the kids, it's worth nothing. And that's why I see it's worked. And if we can, I suppose, make our footprint across Central Australia, even strengthening our pathways for the kids there. That's where I see the next step and vision of where we're going. And we've been talking about it for a few years. So, and there's a lot of social issues in Alice Spring, a lot of crime, and as we said to one of the ministers, I'm sure we can play our part. Not either be all end all, but I know what footy does. But we're one part of hopefully making this town a better place.
All right, well, Michael, thanks so much for joining us, and we're really looking forward to having you as a colleague. I'm sure it'll be a pretty valuable experience for everyone in our office.
Thank you. I really look forward to working with you already. I think we've done a lot already, but look forward to the outcome and what we can achieve together.
Thanks, Michael.
Thanks, Michael.
Thank you.
It's good to have you.